What are we going to explore today, kids? Well, I know, a movie that was completely overlooked for its time and buried into obscurity. A movie that tried to bring a cartoon legend to life, which didn't come out with a spinach-fueled punch, but more of a Shelley Duvall losing her hair on the set of The Shining whimper. Yep, that's right, the Popeye movie. And why not? As of 2025, this isn't the only Popeye movie, as there are now, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, 3 new horror movie versions to choose from for some reason. So, let's explore this odd caper. In 1980, the classical cartoon character Popeye crossed over onto the big screen to star in his first live-action musical, with Popeye the Movie, starring movie legend Robin Williams as Popeye and Shelley Duvall, who at the time had just barely made it out of the Overlook Hotel as Olive Oyl. This often overlooked and forgotten movie sees Popeye arriving to the small seaside town of Sweet Haven, where he is searching for his long-lost father, and he takes residency at the Oyl family boarding house, where he meets Olive Oyl, who is about to marry the local town brute Bluto, but is naturally having second doubts. Popeye and Olive find a deserted baby, which Popeye names Sweepy, a strange baby who can tell the future. After Bluto finds out about Popeye and Olive Oyl's friendship, he grows angry and taxes the Oyl estate, where all sorts of wacky events take place, such as Popeye entering a boxing tournament and Olive Oyl getting attacked by an octopus, in this strange and somewhat misguided anomaly in the Popeye legend and general pop culture. Yes, before he was Peter Pan, Mrs. Doubtfire, and playing Jumanji, Robin Williams was Popeye the Sailor Man, where 40 years ago he starred as the iconic cartoon character, and thus Williams' movie career had now started. So with that, let's look into 10 things that you didn't know about the Popeye movie. Number 10. Popeye became a movie musical because of Annie. In reality, the Popeye movie exists for one reason and one reason only, because of the movie Annie. In the late 70s, there was a bidding war between Paramount Pictures and Columbia Pictures to buy the rights to the Annie comic strip and Broadway musical in order to produce a movie. Naturally, Columbia won the bidding war, where the bid paid off for them, as in 1982 the Annie movie was brought onto the big screen, and although wasn't financially successful at the time, would go on to become a classic. However, having lost the bidding war, Paramount decided to find another comic strip character to turn into a movie, and so, owning the rights to the Popeye character, they decided to turn the Sailor Man with a love of spinach into a movie. But not only that, a musical, in order to compete with the Annie movie, and thus Popeye was greenlit in 1977. So, yeah, I actually find it kind of sad that the Popeye movie didn't come from a genuine love of the Popeye character, but just because Paramount couldn't get the rights to Annie. And something else that I've noticed is that a lot of fans felt that making Popeye a musical was something of a misstep. Number 9. The movie was possible thanks to the Fleischer cartoons. At the time of the early production, there was some confusion as to whether or not Paramount did currently have the rights to make a Popeye cinematic movie, as at that stage, a Hanna-Barbera show called The All-New Popeye Hour was being broadcast on TV. It turns out that the company behind the animated series, King Features Syndicate, owned the TV rights to Popeye. However, Paramount owned the theatrical rights thanks to the Max Fleischer cartoons, which were shown in theaters all the way back in the 30s and 40s. So the project went forward. Author and cartoonist Jules Pfeiffer wrote the script. Singer-songwriter Harry Nilsson was hired to write the musical numbers for the movie. However, finding a director was somewhat more tricky, as originally Marathon Man director John Schlesinger was attached to directing, but he left the project, and several other directors were attached at several stages, including Bonnie and Clyde director Arthur Penn, until finally director Robert Altman came on board as director. Altman was already a successful director, having previously directed the MASH movie 10 years earlier. And all the switches and changes in directors is only the start of the production's hassles with Popeye. There were a lot. Number 8. Original casting of Popeye. So the question is, who could bring to life the iconic faces of Popeye and Olive Oyl and flesh these characters out from cartoon to live-action format? The original choice for Popeye was Dustin Hoffman. Hoffman was involved in the project for a short time, but walked away due to creative differences with the movie's screenwriter Jules Pfeiffer. Robin Williams was subsequently cast. Williams had starred as the character Mork in an episode of Happy Days, which led to his own successful sitcom, Mork and Mindy. So Williams was already a well-known face, and Popeye was his big crossover from primetime TV to cinema. The original choice for Olive Oyl was Lily Tomlin, but it was actually Saturday Night Live actress Gilda Radner who was cast. But she then dropped out when her manager pleaded with her not to do it, feeling that the movie would be a flop and thus hurt her career. So thankfully, Shelley Duvall, who I guess had some free time from being mistreated by Stanley Kubrick on the set of The Shining, was cast as Olive Oyl. Duvall would go on to say that while making the movie, she grew a deep affection of Robin Williams. Number 7. Deleted character. Going off subject for a second here, but remember when the Masters of the Universe movie came out and everyone said that the Gwildor character was just put in there as an Orko substitute because the movie's production probably couldn't figure out how to bring Orko to life on the big screen? Well, the same thing happened to Popeye 7 years earlier. The original script of the Popeye movie was to feature Eugene the Jeep, the mystical yellow cat dog thing or whatever the hell it was that featured in the Popeye comic strips and several cartoons. Eugene is from another dimension and had several supernatural abilities. However, due to time and budget reasons, the bizarre creature was removed from the movie, and instead the human baby Sweepy took his place, hence the fact that the baby has psychic powers. Sweepy was also a pre-existing character in the Popeye mythos, however he was shuffled into the movie to replace Eugene the Jeep. So yeah, in 1980, Paramount Pictures had no love for Eugene the Jeep. Can't blame them, really. Number 6. Dragon Slayer was part of the deal. Something quite rare happened with the formation of the Popeye movie, that being that Paramount Pictures joined forces with Walt Disney Studios to co-distribute the movie, with Paramount handling Popeye's North American release and Disney releasing the movie internationally. Disney actually signed a 2-movie deal with Paramount, meaning the 2 powerhouse production companies would join forces on 2 movies. One being Popeye, and the other being the fantasy movie Dragon Slayer, a movie that was trying to take Disney out of the made-just-for-kids mold, as Dragon Slayer was much darker, and even had Industrial Light and Magic on board to help with the movie's special effects. But that's for another video. And regardless, both Popeye and Dragon Slayer were both part of the same deal. Number 5. Filming location. Popeye was filmed in Malta, which is a southern European island country. In fact, the whole town of Sweet Haven was a set built on location. Ironically, the set was so big it was beyond what was needed for actual filming, which added unnecessary costs to the movie's production. I always found the location in Popeye to look quite unique and almost otherworldly, as you can tell that it's not shot in the States or the UK. Along with the sets built, it looks like its own strange, almost fairy tale world, which I actually quite like. The production didn't just build the town of Sweet Haven, but also a sleeping quarters for the cast and crew and editing and recording facilities. Interestingly, the Sweet Haven set was never taken down and is still on Malta now, and has been turned into an amusement theme park. In fact, a Minty Comedic Arts fan from Malta sent me these pics of the set, as they appear now when he heard that I was doing an episode on the Popeye movie, and it's astonishing to see that they're still up and haven't deteriorated. Thanks, Henry. And the theme park is appropriately called Popeye Village. Number 4. The issues with Popeye's arms. One of the defining features of Popeye is his big guns, which get bigger after he eats spinach, of which without them, he just wouldn't be Popeye. So it would have been very important to translate Popeye's big arm muscles in the movie. The arms that were used were inflatable, however it was decided that the arms just didn't look right, to which new arms had to be made in Italy, which led to a wait for the completion of the arms and for them to be sent to Malta. So to accommodate for this wait, director Robert Altman just filmed scenes of Popeye without his arms showing, in order to keep the production on track. But Popeye's arms aren't the only technical issues with the set, as the movie's musical numbers were performed live on set, as opposed to the standard way of musicals of having actors lip-syncing to pre-recorded songs. I don't know why it was done this way, maybe the songs had been written but not recorded yet, but either way it is said that this led to sound and quality issues with the songs as they are presented in the movie. In addition to that, there was also tons of issues with the mechanical octopus, which was to be used in the movie's climax, with the prop constantly malfunctioning, costing the production time and money. Number 3, on-set injury. Yeah, when it comes to issues and mishaps on the set of Popeye the movie, it's all downhill from here, as Robin Williams suffered a nasty blow to the head while filming Popeye. It was a scene where he's fighting Bluto and a can of spinach gets thrown at him. While filming that scene, the can of spinach hit him quite hard, leaving a nasty cut on his head, which gushed out blood, and one trip to the hospital later and the actor ended up having to get stitches right on his noggin. The whole ordeal caused the movie's production to temporarily close down. Yikes. Jeez, spinach is meant to make Popeye stronger, not leaving him with a concussion and needing stitches. Number 2, the production was hastily wrapped. As mentioned, all kinds of issues plagued Popeye's production. Robin Williams just couldn't get the Popeye voice right. He struggled with Popeye's raspy mumbling grunt, along with being able to talk with a pipe in his mouth, so his lines had to get dubbed in post-production. Williams also did a lot of ad-libbing, which irritated the director, but tensions didn't end there, as the movie's scriptwriter Jules Pfeiffer, who was doing periodic script rewrites, wasn't a fan of the music Harry Nilsson was providing for the movie, feeling that the songs just didn't go with the flow of the film and dragged it down. Now, I in no way mean any disrespect to Nilsson whatsoever, but I think Pfeiffer had a point, as none of the songs sound particularly amazing or stand out. But to be fair, that could go back to the songs being performed live. Supposedly, this caused Pfeiffer to leave the movie and walk out of the project. And to make matters worse, the movie went over budget and over schedule, to which Paramount ordered the production to wrap up and to return to the States with whatever footage they have so far. So for all we know, the filming probably wasn't even completed. Number 1, not a failure, but not a hit. When Popeye came out, it made $60 million at the box office on a $20 million budget, so the movie actually was quite successful. However, the box office takings were still lower than anticipated. Both Paramount and Disney were hoping that it would be a massive hit, but instead they got an adequate one, with the movie being seen as a failure by the studios. Apparently kids who watched it at the time found it enjoyable, but the critics were harsher, with the movie being labelled as boring. I've actually had a few online chats with people in regards to the Popeye movie, and a common theme that I'm noticing is people saying they like the movie and love Robin Williams' performance, but they just didn't think the musical aspect worked. And you know what? Maybe that was the movie's downfall. Maybe Popeye just was not meant to be a musical. My memories of watching the Popeye cartoons as a kid was that it felt kind of, Looney Tunes. It was all fun and slapstick and Popeye hitting people. I don't think it was a property known for musical numbers, or at least not to my experience with Popeye. I think the real dilemma goes back to try and make it a product to rival Annie. Maybe wanting to make an Annie counterpart rather than a movie truer to Popeye doomed the movie from the get-go. However, that said, I think the Shelley Duvall performed song He Needs Me has gone on to be considered a classic, and even featured in the Adam Sandler love story drama Punch Drunk Love. So at least that song has found appreciation, despite the musical aspect of Popeye possibly being misguided. But I have to admit, I don't dislike the movie. It still touches my heart and has a warm place in my memories of when I watched it as a kid. And now, sadly, that we're living in a world where Robin Williams and Shelley Duvall have passed away, it kind of makes watching the Popeye movie that little bit sad. But regardless, the heart that both actors put into their performances will live on forever. I can remember watching the Popeye movie when I was a kid when it was shown on TV one night, and being disappointed with it. I went in expecting something more like the cartoon, something more slapstick and Looney Tunes-esque. To me, the tone and pace was just a bit off, and I do think that making it a musical was a misdirection. They should have just focused on making it its own movie rather than a retaliation to not getting the rights to Annie. That said, it is a film that I've come to appreciate in time, and it's worth watching for Robin Williams' performance, as he does a very convincing Popeye. All fans of Williams should watch Popeye, as it was the start of Williams' movie career. Anyway, I'm Minty, and say what you want to say about the Popeye movie, it actually did make $3 million more than the Annie movie. See ya! Ugh.